Welcome to the HyperFast Show, where we believe unlimited growth in business and life is created by surrounding yourself with people who have been where you are going. Learning from others allows you to compress time and grow hyper fast. And now, here are your hosts, Keri, Shull, and Dan Lesniak. Keri and Dan are real estate developers, best-selling authors, billion-dollar agents, and million-dollar agent makers. And now, get ready to grow hyper fast.
Well, you gotta remember when I started selling, like now Facebook ads has been kind of like a term and people are hyped up on it. But when I was selling it 7 years ago, I had that times 50 and it wasn't rural. It was everybody. It's like, oh, this Facebook doesn't work and all this stupid stuff. My customer's not on Facebook, okay. Like all those kind of typical things. It's really just education and fear. A lot of the people are just stuck in their ways and they've been doing business for 20 years. So if they accept the truth that they need social media, they also have to accept the fact that they have to change everything that they're doing. And that's a big pill for people to swallow. So it's much easier to deflect and just say, I don't need it. So then you don't have to take action. That's what everybody runs away from, is accountability, right? So it's really educating them and having a conversation. Like when I was selling at first these services, I always tell my team and myself, never sell without visual representation. And what I mean by that is, in this industry, there's so much like ads. Like imagine if I just did my presentation and I didn't have slides. Would you guys have retained any of it? Probably like this much. So just having a solid demonstration explaining this is how it can help you, and then compare it. I love to take it on head on, like I even did today. It's like, how much does a billboard cost you? I can give you the same thing, except it's targeted for this. Would you be interested in trying it? What do you think the results will be once we do this? Right? So.
Well, another thing you do really well, because I stalked the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I saw the trapeze guy.
Yeah.
The whiteboard presentation.
That was real as hell too.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was like missing a few teeth, like, you know, very raw.
Yeah.
So you only need one person to crush it and succeed to tell the shit out of that story, and then you just keep telling that story over and over and over again. And what I would tell you is, don't try and convince someone to stop doing what they're doing that's working. Talk to them about their desire to grow and executing another pillar of success. That's an easier thing to convince them of, right? So once you get them to see the value of having another pillar of success to enable their growth, then you can move money around once they start seeing it work.
And in addition to that, like you just kind of sparked something. Right now, there's so many people who desperately need this. Don't waste time on somebody who's that stubborn. Right? 84% of business owners go out of business within the first 4 years. Let them go out. There's someone who's like, God, I wish I had somebody who knew the social media stuff that's waiting for you. I'd rather work with them. Like, especially on the marketing side, on my side, like I tell, the people that I train, I say, look, find the people who are actually excited about this stuff, because at the end of the day, it's about happiness more so than money. And working with someone who you're always having to push is just gonna make you miserable and screw up the whole thing.
I have actually one question for each
Sure.
of you, so I'll start with you. You talk about the Genius program, and you talk about do-it-yourself program. Who do I speak about the do-it-yourself program?
So just like the idea of doing it yourself, a lot of people say, as Grant talked about, he said, hey, I'm running my business, I don't have time for the social stuff. I started to think about that. In some cases that may be the case, but most of the time it's not. For example, is the number one difference from you guys making a little bit of money and a lot of money just having more qualified leads consistently? So why does everybody try and outsource the one thing stopping them from growing?
No, I do not.
Like, not you in particular, but I'm saying in general, this is usually the mentality. The hardest part, the only thing stopping from where you want to go, you want to pay someone as little money as possible to do the most important thing in your business. And then I say, you want to depend, like, for me, like I like to have as much control of my business as I can, because the opposite of in control is out of control. And so if the marketing is dictating the number of sales I'm generating, I'm bringing that shit in-house. And I'm investing all in on having a team that can do it in a very fast way. So if you can connect me with the person that does it, that's what I want. And for you, Keri, what tasks do you delegate when you get in your level?
What tasks do I delegate? Almost all of them. So for everyone who was at my house last night, I don't do chores. So every personal thing that I don't want to do, that I don't enjoy, I don't.
Same.
Yeah, It makes life better, right? And then in my business, I had a coach early on that had me list out everything that I do and circle the things that I don't like doing, right? So if you say, what are you good at and not good at? Your mind tells you you're good at everything. But the reality is you suck at a lot of things, right?
Guilty.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So it's easier to be honest with yourself when you talk about what you like doing and what you don't like doing. For me, I have my team rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and then they circle the things that they don't like doing, and we figure out how they can delegate that. So I've done the same thing in my career, and I'll tell you, I wish I was a yellow piece of paper on one of those old school, like big pads that I did it on. I wish I still had that piece of paper, because what I believed that I could delegate at that time and what I delegate now are dramatically different. So what I would challenge you guys to do is keep track of where you're spending your time, and every month, every quarter, reevaluate what you should be delegating. And as you increase your income, the time that you spend doing income generating activities, your hourly rate will dramatically increase when you start to be aware of it. Like, why the hell would you possibly clean your freaking toilets when your hourly rate is X and you can pay somebody $20? So when you start thinking of life that way, it's really freeing, because there's a lot of shit you don't have to do.
Yeah, and I think too, sometimes if that ratio is off, and I think this is something that we have a hard time doing, if your hourly is not worth that much, where you're like, I should just clean my own toilets, it's because you just haven't acquired the skills yet. Realize that doctors don't actually start making money until 13 years later, after practicing every single day, after borrowing $300,000 and paying a ton of interest, and then they do a residency underneath somebody else who's successful, and then they may start at about $100,000. Entrepreneurship is the only sport in the world where we think we can just fucking skip the line and take shortcuts. So sometimes your hourly rate is exactly what you deserve, because you didn't do enough role playing yet. So roll up your sleeves and practice.
Awesome.
Yeah, tell yourself the truth.
Keri, for your buyer's agents, along those lines, how do you coach your buyer's agents to make sure those labor-intensive couples don't burn so much of their time that their hourly rate becomes nothing?
Well, the first thing I do is I have really firm processes, and I train them on the processes, and they have to test out they used to be with me. Danielle, our sales manager, has just taken over that in the last few months, but that was something I outsourced last, because I recognized that if they didn't master the skill in the first appointment of setting the right expectations, they would burn tons and tons and tons of time, and then they would get discouraged and they would leave the industry like the other 90% of real estate agents that leave the industry, right?
Is that what the stat is?
90%. 95% within 5 years, 90% within 1. It's not an easy industry. So for everybody in the room who's a real estate agent, congratulations, you're in the room, right? It's not easy. So here's my secret, and sorry to keep saying it, but if you're in the inner circle, go watch the video. It's in there for the reality check analysis. It's part 3 of our buyer process. That is what changes the game. All of a sudden, when I hear agents say, oh, all of my clients are so unrealistic, I'm like, God, it's too bad you suck at your job. Because everybody's unrealistic, right? And your job is to realign their expectations and put yourself on the same side of the table as them, as their advocate and partner. That's what they want. And if you don't have the skills to deliver that, then they should go work with Redfin, right?
Fire.
I have a question for you about your videos.
Sure.
When you're creating ad content, well, it's kind of a multi-part question. When you're creating ad content, is your goal to make those evergreen videos, or do you do like seasonal ones? And
it's a good question. So first you have to assess your resources, right? So we will do one-off ones sometimes, but realistically we should be focused on things that can be evergreen and used again and again. And majority of the time we do that. We have a little playroom because I'll have 3 to 6 people on staff at all times who's just dedicated to creating content and distributing it. And part of that process, if you put the marketing team behind, there's probably 10 of us that are literally just focused on the Billy Jean's marketing brand that are doing that. And so then we'll kind of get creative. Like Gary Vee, I think he has a team of 25 that are just dedicated to his personal brand to give you guys an idea of the scope it takes to execute with that much speed and quantity. But I would say I would focus on one ad, one video that consistently brings you customers, because realistically, that's all you need. I think that 90% stat is because people come in because it's sexy, meaning all I have to do is sell one house and I will make X amount of dollars. How hard can that be? That's the illusion. Everybody wants the easiest and fastest way to get rich, so they come into real estate. But then they don't realize that that means you have to talk to 200 people. And once they send out the first email that says, hey everybody, I'm a real estate agent, they have no other place. So you just need one video ad that gets people to consistently raise their hand and say, I'm interested. It will change your life forever. I would talk about profit producing activities. What if you took 90% of your time every single day for a month and just made different videos and tested them for $5 to $50 to see if it brought you a customer? And you just locked yourself in a room for 1 month. You would come out with like 4 ads that work, and every time you wanted a customer, you just turn the ad on.
Okay, so do you lead to other videos on YouTube? Like, do you have a series of videos also on YouTube?
Yeah, so what I like to do as far as like formula is it's ad with some kind of hook, right? Like, as I talked about earlier, like how to pay not that much down, what your monthly payment is. What I'll really do is say, hey, click this button, give me your name, email, and phone number, and I'll send you blank. So that's where your leads are built up, and then those are the people that receive the other content, right? And then it's like, what do you say in the other content? You just address the different problems. At first it was about down payment, then it was about monthly payment, now it's about interest rate, now it's about weather, now it's about the safety in schools. Now it's about X, now it's about Y. You just keep telling them information, but every single time you give new information, it's another opportunity to sell again. So it's, hey, I hope you found that helpful. If you're also wondering about blah, 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 shoot me a text, or click this button and jump on my calendar.
Okay, so my last part of my question is,
Sure.
for a couple of better houses, I guess we don't talk about limiting beliefs, but the nicer homes, I've made a few promotional type videos. It's almost like a commercial for the video.
Yeah.
The Youngring in Canada does it with Keller Williams, and I copy her, basically, copy the grades. And so I've had several people call me agents and say, my customers or my clients are upset because I didn't make a commercial for their house, which is kind of cool, but I don't know how to, because that's not evergreen. Obviously, it's like a listing video. Once it sells, you have to take it down. Figuring out.
No.
I'll let you go.
No.
Know what?
Go ahead.
No, you don't have to take it down. Use that to get other people. So hold on. Do an intro where you say, are you tired of your home not selling? Agents don't know how to market with video. Look what I did. And then you play that and you make that an evergreen ad when you have an awesome video. And you dice it up and you make it smaller ads, and then you make little memes of yourself doing the videos and you market the shit out of it.
Yeah. And I'll even throw one on there, like, I want you guys to think about that. I started off my presentation today about saying how every real estate agent's the same, but I could have done that with any industry in the world, right? That was kind of the point. So one thing I want you guys to have an honest conversation. I believe a lot of business is telling yourself the truth. And an honest conversation, if someone does list with you versus the next person, is there really an advantage? You don't have to say the answer out loud, but think about it. Like, is there something that you're doing? And so what I tell people, because we have a lot of real estate people come through our programs, is I say, learn how to run Facebook ads, and then when you're having a conversation, they say, well, how are you going to list my property different than the next person? Well, I can run Facebook ads, and this is what I do, and I can get you the highest offer because I'll get offers that the other person can't. Like, actually legit have some stuff that you do. So I always say just keep adding tools to your toolbox, and that's how you can keep charging more, because you can solve bigger problems in ways that other people's can't. And join the inner circle. That was like a no-brainer to me.
Thank you for that.
That's what I would say.
So
That's my tip.
on his comment just then about learning how to use Facebook ads, you know what we do before listing appointments? We generate a buyer list because we run the ads in advance now, which I learned from my buddy Sharon. So we go in showing them what we've already done to market their property in advance. Try that on for size. Your conversion will go up.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you for a wonderful event. I was very impressed.
Oh, thank you.
And I wanted to ask you both, how do you balance time between developing and building strategy, personal development, and sales? What would be your formula for that? And the second part of my question is, who are your 3 top mentors for both of you?
I'm going to let you go first. I want to hear what he has to say. He's built a bigger business than I have.
So you're saying like balancing between business, sales, etc.
And your personal development time.
And personal development. Well, actually, Grant brought it up before. He said, I have graphs. He said, I look at graphs and other posts. I get a text message every single morning from Ashley on my team, and she sends me exactly where we're at as a company in regards to sales. And the reason why that's my leading indicator is because all that rest of the shit, if there's no sales coming in, doesn't matter. So my priority goes, sales way like out of here, like number one before anything. And then I kind of circle back to all that. Now, keep in mind, that was a little dramatic, and that kind of hurt. But regardless, I start with sales, and then also too, like, I just think there needs to be time, and no one talks about this enough, to accept the fact that like you're not gonna make money while you're working on some things. Like people want the balance, but the truth is, in the beginning or depending on where you're at, there's a point where you need to build a foundation. And that's that doctor phase I was talking about, that 13 years to learn the skills, etc. There needs to be a time where you are just actually learning. So like, I don't know, you can learn some things on the fly, but for example, like all the rest of that stuff in your business, like operating on the business, you can't do until you master sales. You can have the best sales in the world, but it doesn't matter if you don't have marketing. So what I say, if you have a revenue underneath $1 million or less, there's only two functions in your business to do: marketing and sales. Anything outside of that is a distraction and you're lying to yourself. And then to weather the storm while you suck at those things and you get good at them, that's where mindset comes into play. Anyways, long story short, for mindset, I create my own environment, I control it. Podcast, YouTube, I don't do like the TV shit. I never know what's happening in the news or anything. I'm the last person to know because I just create my own conversations, right? And so I just sub out those. And then also too, I think it gets better later. It's just that amount of time that you're going to not have that free time, not have that social. I don't think it is a balance. That's my answer. There is no balance in the beginning until you build a foundation, then you can start talking about that. If that makes sense.
And your mentors, your 3 top mentors.
So I spent like $100,000 last year in mentorship. One was Cameron Harold. He was the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK when they went from 2 million to 100 million. But my strategy with mentorship is you gotta have, like understand every human being has their own superpower, meaning they're all good at different stuff. Cameron understood growth, process, strategy. So I hired him and paid him like $7,000 a month or some shit. Then Jim Bunch, as I recently went through like a breakup with my ex-girlfriend, right? And we had kids, so then there was like the personal stuff. So I hit up this guy, Jim Bunch, who's super into relationships, spiritual, a whole bunch of other shit that I never focus on. So I had him for that aspect. And then there was my buddy Lewis House. Like, he's like, dude, you should join my mastermind because it's like a law of thirds. You gotta have a third of the people in your life who you're helping, a third of the people that are helping you, and then a third of your peers. And I felt like I was surrounding myself in my life where I was always kind of like the one helping, and I needed some peers to talk about shit with. So he's like, motherfucker, just come. He doesn't say that. I was like, motherfucker, what should I do? He's like, just come to my mastermind. So I was like, all right, cool. And then I did, and so that was another thing. I met so many other people that are like, dude, you're just going through this, snap out of it, whatever it was, and it was super helpful. So, yeah.
Awesome. Is this still working?
I took all the mic power.
I think it died. Okay, I can talk loud enough. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So for me, I'm having my 3rd baby, right? So there's definitely like.
Wait, can we applause for that? That's the first thing I said. I was like,
Thank you.
we were all wishing another person. Like, what the fuck?
Thank you.
Yeah.
In training,
Yeah.
my first baby walked on fire, so I've got to keep the energy high.
Yeah.
So for me, work-life balance is really important, but my self-development, I put really high on the list. Like, I believe the whole saying, if you're on the airplane and you don't give yourself oxygen first, everyone around you will die too, right? So I take care of my personal development and I make it a priority. I travel at least once a quarter to go to a conference or event where I'm surrounded by people who think differently than I do. That, like Nick and Tristan, I wouldn't have met if I hadn't have been in an event. Billy, I wouldn't have met if Sharon, who's my coach now, I would not have met if I wasn't at an event. So I put myself in that room, and sometimes for me, like I listen to Grant Cardone's strategy also. So I invest my money and I have no liquidity sometimes and I feel broke, right? And I'm not broke, but I feel broke because I am opportunistic as shit. And I have a problem where if I see something, I'm like, I gotta do that, right? So when I joined the last mastermind that I joined, I was literally like, it was like $25,000 and everyone was just writing a check for $25,000. And I'm like, well, shit, I don't have $25,000. If I go back home and tell my husband I just wrote a check for $25,000, he's going to be pissed, right? So I figured out a way to make that work. I did it anyway, right? But I always have done that for myself. Like since I first went to my first live event and realized that it changed my life, every moment moving forward has been, how do I be in the right room? And as a quick tangent, I went on a bad path for a while for myself, and I'm going to talk to you about that. I picked a mentor that does not suit my strengths for about 2 years, and it stunted my growth. So the person that I picked operates from a place of fear. Right? He talks about saving money on a fucking coffee, which is just totally counterproductive to my being. I'm about growth. Like, I think if you've been in the room with me today, you probably know that. So having a mentor that's like constantly working on the budget and trying to figure out how I can cut costs, and like, for me, like, that's not what makes me shine and what makes the people around me shine. So I want you to be really careful who you surround yourself with and pay attention to their core belief system. If their core belief system matches what you want to emulate, awesome. And something I learned from Grant Cardone was, when you're picking a mentor, make sure that they're really freaking good at what you're picking them for. So Billy just talked about the difference between someone who's scaling a business and someone who's really good at helping them focus on spirituality. So I've always had different coaches. I have 3 coaches in my life right now. So find a coach that is really good at what you want to do. And then understand, if they're coaching you on money, you better know how much they have in the bank. You better know what their net worth is. Like, I don't like when people are following a coach and they don't understand their money. There's a problem there. Like, why do you think they're successful? Why? What proof do you have?
The Instagram post, obviously.
Right? So in terms of my mentors right now, Sharon, who doubled, he's the CEO of Kingston Lane. If you don't know what Kingston Lane is, Google it, follow him. The guy is freaking amazing. So much like when I stalked Billy when he got off stage, right? And I'd already been following him, but as soon as I found out he was going to the event, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome, right? Sharon got off the stage and I'm like, what do I need to do to hire him? And he's like, well, I'm not a coach. I'm like, cool. What do I need to do to hire you?
You're going to coach today.
Yeah, you're coaching me. Like, we're figuring out how to. So he does not coach real estate agents, but he coaches me. So I think it's about when you find somebody who's the right mentor for you, like embracing the moment and figuring out how you can add value for them as well, because it's a two-way street. 100%. Right? So for Sharon, he doubled my listing conversion. Like, oh my God. If you double my listing conversion in 90 days,
Double your business.
That's going to change my life, right? So I'm trying to put myself in the room to find people like that to be a part of my life. Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
One. Yep.
Life-changing book for either of you, both of you.
Man.
I don't have like a one, because of that. It's like you have different problems at your life that help at that moment. And then after you get through that problem, guess what? Another one's waiting for you, like, what's that? You ready? And so
Memorable.
I like Scaling Up right now by Vern Harnish, because it just puts business, like, especially in the growth phase of like, this is how you hire, this is what you need, and you just realize your business is not unique. There's nothing unique about your customer. It's all the same shit. And that's why so many people, you see these moguls, it's because they get it. They understand that I love that book.
It's awesome. I'm going to talk about a program. I'm a program girl. So to me, if you're stuck emotionally and there's a block there, I would go to Unleash the Power Within, or I would go to Date with Destiny. Like, just freaking turn it upside down fast. And that to me has been very meaningful.
Thank you.
Sure.
A lot of successful people talk about how they start their morning, like from.
You want to go first? I'm going to make everybody mad right now.
Morning routine. If you could share that. And then my second question is, my problem is I put so much money into, I was starting out like doing investment stuff. So I would spend money into buying programs, there are different systems, there's different tools, and everything looks great and amazing, and you can get overwhelmed with all the bells and whistles that are out there. So what type of advice do you give to kind of, I know you said focus on, you know, marketing and sales, but then in the back of my mind, also thinking about, you know, setting up the system, and if you can kind of understand where I'm going with.
Go.
I feel like this is my question. So there's no such thing as $1 million idea, just $1 million execution. In other words, every single thing out there can make you $1 million. And shiny object syndrome, which is what you're referring to, right, as people call it. Imperfectionist.
Because I'm Grant's wife with wanting to 17 times the video or the pictures.
Well, I'll go with the first one first. So like shiny object syndrome, do you know why it exists? Is because you have an idea, and then at some point in the journey, it gets hard. And instead of, when you hit a wall, right? And instead of going through the wall, which is the only way to success, right? Everything you want is on the other side of the hard shit. What we do is we just say, I'd rather do this because this is probably easier and I won't have to deal with this wall. And then you go to the next business and you run into another wall. And then you go to the next business, you run into another wall. And that's why they say, some people say I've been in business for 30 years. It's like, no, dude, you've repeated the same year 30 times. Wow. And I was like, somebody hit me with that. I was like, that's it. That's the whole game. Yeah. So it's like, pick your shit and like experiment fast, right? So find the thing that you actually like. That's the thing I would say is, and once you like it, you make a decision to go all in on that. In regards to morning rituals, I play video games probably. So like I don't know, like some kid asked me at an event, he's like, Bill, just tell me, man, like your time, like what are you doing like to get your mind right? I was like, I play fucking Xbox every day before I go to bed. Like, I don't know. In the mornings, like some people say never check their emails, that takes you into a bad place. And they say that's where you start putting out fires and stuff. Your business shouldn't have a whole bunch of fires. I'm excited to see what's happening with my business in the morning. I grab my phone, like, unless I'm like with my daughter, but like I grab my phone and then I'm like, yeah, this is exciting. What's going on? What are we going to do today? I like really love everything about what we do.
I'm talking about specifically like there are different CRMs and there's different.
Honestly, start like that first $1 million. I think the best CRM is a spreadsheet, a Google sheet for free, and literally listing out like the people you want to sell, and then their phone numbers, and then calling them until you have $1 million. That's the realest shit ever. Like everyone, it's like, that's the best CRM. Just like picking up the phone and calling until you get it. But like I shortcut that, right? And I use advertising, so I don't have to pick up the phone and call anymore. So now I just show up to the appointment and call. That feels way better.
Yep. My morning routine used to be exercise. I worked out with a trainer. Then I had 2 children. And now my morning routine is trying to wake up before they wake up so that I have a little bit of time to think.
How's that go? You ever beat them?
I actually beat them because they sleep in until like 7:30 or 8. Nice. They're rock stars. So for me, exercise is something that I have not been focused on, and I hope that it comes back into my routine, but I don't beat myself up about it. Like it's just something that's changed, right? I still like do other things, but I'm not working out with a trainer. I'm not as focused on it as I used to be. And it's actually freed me because when I was trying to balance doing the things that I love to do with my children and working out, it was creating a conflict inside me. So what I would say is there are a lot of people who will tell you how you should do things, and you have to figure out what works for you and what's authentic to where you are in your life in this moment. And so there were times in my business where I was working 14-hour days. That's not the case anymore. I travel 4 to 6 months out of the year. Right, I have a very balanced lifestyle. I put my children to bed. Last night I had 40 people over and I still tucked them in. So for me, I love checking my phone in the morning. Like I open my eyes and I'm like, I wonder how many contracts we got last night.
Yeah.
I'm not like, what problem is gonna come up? Same thing. I'm like, so yes, I read all the books and I talk to all the mentors that say like, don't do that. And when they're talking to me, I'm like, man, they're right, I shouldn't do that. And then when I look at it, it just feels so good. So I do it, right?
And don't forget too, like your business, you're creating it. You can make it however you want, and you can make it enjoyable. So like, I made the joke about Xbox earlier, but if you go in my office, I think I have 3 Xboxes in my office. And I have a giant LED wall that we play Xbox on, and I just incorporated it into work. Like, I believe in work-life integration probably more so than balance, but that's me. And she just nailed it. It's like, it just depends like what makes you happy. She travels 4 to 6 times, or 4 to 6 months out of the year. I hate traveling. You'll catch me 4 to 6 times a day at my house and just chilling, because that's what I like to do. So there's no right way, right?
Yeah.
And so really assessing your mentor, like, don't follow the person who's living the lifestyle that you don't want. Follow someone that has it, and like, you know what I mean? So that was huge.
Totally.
When you feel like you've reached a ceiling for your mentor, this is a question for both of you, how do you overcome that and find a new mentor that's going to take you to the next level?
Just get a new one. You know?
I mean, that's the answer that came into my mind.
Yeah.
You know, how do you find the right one?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Where have you not done that in the past? That's the root of where this question is coming from.
Probably staying in a family business.
Okay.
That's huge.
Awesome for being authentic with your answer.
Yeah.
So is that a loyalty thing or is that a fear thing? What's it about?
Probably both.
Okay. So are you asking the question because you're trying to figure out your path forward now, or is this something that was in the past?
I'm trying to figure out who I should be seeking out for mentorship. Because I don't want to find a local broker because that's potentially competition. So, you know, back to your mentor. Do you have a mentor that's local, or are you finding mentorship from like out of state?
I don't care whether they're local or not. The one that I hired that is one of a few right now. None of my mentors that are in real estate are local. I do have a business coach who's here today, he may be in the room, who is local. But for me, it's like I didn't necessarily know that I wanted another mentor. When I met Sharon, I knew I was hiring another mentor. When I met Billy, I knew I was getting video coaching from him. He had to say like all but 10 words, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So they find you at times that it might not be ideal because I'm paying for a bunch of other mentors, but am I going to put money in his pocket to learn from him when I respect his brain and how he thinks about video? I can't wait.
I would too, like, just ask yourself the simple question of like, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing? And if it's deciding, there's coaches who are specialized in helping people make decisions, right? And then start looking there. So just ask yourself, like, what's your biggest challenge? And then start searching if you're active like that, you know?
And then the to be direct in feedback about the challenge you're having with not wanting to be part of the competition or not wanting to get counsel from the competition, I would say that's coming from a scarcity mindset because you're afraid that there's not enough pie. There's plenty of pie. If you picked the person down the street, your family loves you and they want you to be happy. They want you to succeed. And if they don't, then you're making decisions for the wrong people. You got to take care of you first.
Yeah, there's been some fire.
Thank you.
So this question is for you, Keri. I do a lot of Facebook advertising, and I like talking about advertising and all that. So I funnel hacked your Facebook ads for the last week or so.
Sweet.
And you're running very similar ads to what I run.
Okay.
Which was encouraging.
Sweet.
So what I want to know is, why does my targeting not work and yours does?
Did you study my landing pages?
No, I was looking at your lead ads.
Study my landing pages.
Okay.
So what I would
This is a big lesson. I don't want to stop your shine on this, but like, just because I see this in my world, just seeing advertisements all the time for 8 years, people do this all the time. And I'm not saying you're doing this, but I see this shit so much, like, so I had to like chime in.
Yeah, please go.
But like, a lot of times we think you see someone successful, and you see like 1 to 6% of the shit they're doing, but we tell ourselves like, really? That's it? All that person is really doing is just this. It's the Shark Tank effect. Shark Tank, you go out and you go, oh, let me just make $1 million because I invented like a new scrubber. And you think it's this simple thing, and we tell ourselves it's this simple story, but dude, the worst, be careful funnel hacking anybody, because you see such a small percentage of the sales cycle, and you can spin yourself in circles forever around that. That's a super, super dangerous move without understanding the whole pie. Anyways.
But what you're doing is smart.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
hacking the funnel is smart as long as you take it all the way through.
Yeah.
So all of you should be hacking my shit.
Yeah.
Just like I'm gonna hack his shit, right?
Sure.
And so should you. So I think that's very smart. But where I think what I've seen in terms of, and I spent $21,000 the first year that there were ads on Facebook. So I've been doing Facebook for a long time. I have no idea what's in there right now. Honestly, I delegate all of that so other people do it. But what I will tell you is we have a full-time coder that just focuses on our landing pages and the sales funnels. Because if there's any incongruence between the ad and what they're landing on, they're going to be turned off by you and they're going to run away. Right, guys? And the hardest thing is finding that consistency as you're A/B testing and tweaking your ads. So that's a full-time job, and not all of us have the ability to have someone full-time doing it. So just focus on doing some things well. Once you find something that's working, dump money into that, and then test something else. But be careful not to try and do 50 things when you don't have the capacity to do it well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you answered the second part of my question too, which was going to be if it's not a core competency, who'd you outsource it to? But obviously you are. So.
Well, I'm going to go back to what Billy said earlier. I had a conversation with Gary Vaynerchuk that changed my life because what I realized is I was outsourcing a core competency in my business to Zillow and Realtor.com and to all these third-party sources that were controlling my income. And Zillow just changed the game. They increased the price per lead by 5 times. Okay? When I did the math on that, that just sucked. It did not work. I would have been paying money to close buyer leads. So I had to really focus on, okay, how serious am I about growth? How serious am I about controlling my destiny? And that's why a coach like Billy, for me, is a must. I asked you all to identify your musts in a lot of different times today. For me, I will control my destiny when it comes to getting leads, period. Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
And it's all through referral, building that culture. And so we have an opportunity that's also a challenge. So at our annual gala event, we have 400 people. And it's just this massive party. We're trying to what are some, I love all the principles you said, educate before you educate. But how do you monetize such a big event, but keep that investment going beyond? Because it's at the end of the year, we go into the first quarter, it's tough. So I'm are there any
You're trying to fill up the event by just referral only?
Oh, no.
So he's saying the event already happens, and then he doesn't spend money on advertising now, but he's trying to figure out where to invest the dollars. Is that right?
How do we make that event with 400 plus people that are going to come? It's all our clients. How do I leverage marketing in such a big event? Do you take big events and put Facebook Live? Do you have
Sure. So there's a lot of questions in here, so I kind of want to take a step back. I'll go about how to monetize an event the best way in a second, but let me take a step back on businesses that typically, most, not all, but most depend on referrals. Their trajectory usually goes like this, and they're out of business. That's what I talked about earlier. However, you do get some that come in and they do well, and it goes like this, until it goes like this. And it stays right there for a long time. Coca-Cola, they advertise, right? Not advertising, it's cool. It says something about the quality of your guys' work, etc. But it also, too, it lets me know where you're at as a business and that you're going to be stuck there forever. Everyone, you got to advertise to get this. Grant talked about, I talked about, every single everyone you can think of that's doing it, they're crushing it with advertising. And in regards to the event, we live in a day and age where it's kind of weird, but if you don't post it, it really didn't happen. So for example, 400 people at that event, if you don't go all in on filming it and making it freaking awesome, it's going to live forever in those 400 people's mind. You want it to reach 4 million people, and that's why I film. Even Paul, you guys can see in the back right there, he filmed the entire event, even though they have footage, etc., because we're going to use that. And there's going to be some gems there. Also, too, here's the thing, you can turn on a camera and try and sell something all day, but there's a difference from capturing magic. And at an event, organic moments happen that you're going to want forever and you're going to want to show people. So the best way to use that event is to take the best moments, turn them into like 5 to 10 minute ads and sell them something. Do you want to join my team? Do you want this, etc.? But that's the everything. Like the whole point to me, like why I come out here is to have this presentation and then use it and send it to the 300,000 people on my email list and say, dude, you guys need to go on YouTube, and I'll sell the shit out of them. Which is why I took the end of my whole session to say, should they buy it? And then what's gonna happen? I'm thinking of the next move. I'm not thinking about, like, obviously I'm present with you guys, but like I'm thinking about how I'm gonna use that exact clip with that exact lesson, and I'm gonna generate another like $250,000 by sending out an email.
So would you like one strategy for really monetizing that party that I would use? Taking what he said, you have to have an amazing video team, and then you have to have a strategy before the event to find clients that have amazing testimonial stories. They will not know what an amazing testimonial is. So what their testimonial would look like if they went in blind is like, oh, they're so awesome, they're really nice, they took good care of me. That speaks to exactly no one. They give no shits about that. But if you have a buyer that says, look, I was really afraid because I'd been looking on Zillow for 6 months and I hadn't found anything. And then when I started working with them, they found me an off-market property within 2 weeks. And my family went from paying, you know, X amount more per month in rent to owning our own home and investing in our future. And they made all the difference. Without them, it wouldn't have been possible. Do you see the difference? You have to coach that. They will not do that on their own. And I'm working with my team right now because I used to personally record the referrals and the testimonials, and I'm really good at coaching it out of people, and I also get them drunk first. So sometimes they slur their speech. Yeah, it works. They're like, oh my God, like, wow, they were amazing. And then they're like, am I okay? Are my lips purple? Because I've been drinking red wine, right? So I'm not kidding. I'm actually serious. If you guys go back, when I used to be younger and crazier and not pregnant all the time, like my client events were nuts. They were so fun. So if you guys are having 400 people in a room, make sure you're getting at least 10 of those testimonials and make a long video and then short videos, right? Then you can do Insta ads from that. You can do Facebook ads from that. You can have a story of the event, and then you're gonna send the story of the event to everybody who didn't make it and tell them, you're gonna categorize the people, how much you missed them, and you hope they can come next time. When they see that video and they hear everybody, all of a sudden the referrals are gonna start pouring in, right? When the people themselves are giving the testimonial, you're reminding them of the results that you created for them and what's gonna happen. They're gonna start sending you more referrals. So it's just a cycle of awesomeness.
And on those testimonials, that was excellent what you said, by the way, to the T. I would think of something else, and I'm a big believer in stereotyping. And here's what I mean. When people look at testimonials, they see themselves. So make sure you're getting testimonials of a man, a white guy, a black guy, a woman, a single woman, a married woman. That shit, it's crazy how much it affects conversions. Because sometimes you see a testimonial, and the first thing that anybody thinks when they're buying something is, well, will it work for me? And that person doesn't understand my situation. That's why you need to have every situation covered. So it's like, no matter what's your objection, I got a video for that, and then boom, you go into Keri's script, done.
And one other on that note, they want to relate to each other's fear. So what I said about we were stuck, we've been looking for 6 months, to break down the mindset of the testimonial for you, first it's fear. If you lead with fear, people are all ears. If you lead with how awesome you are, they don't give a shit.
Amen to that.
Okay? So lead with fear. Cool.
First of all, I just want to say again, thank you for the event.
Thanks.
And congratulations to you both for the level of success that you achieved so far.
Thank you.
And that's kind of, I get fascinated by how people think. So I wanted to ask a question of each of you that, was there a moment or a time when you started this journey, but you were like most of the people in this room at one point? What was an event or a thought or something that got you to propel yourself to go, you know, this is where I really want to go? How did you make that step?
I'll take this one. I can like reenact the moment. So I'm at a Craig Proctor conference in 2010. Who's been to a Proctor conference? Wow, okay. A lot of people don't love him. He changed my life and business, and this is the moment. I'm sitting next to a beer tap on one side, and this guy, who at the time I perceived to be a douchebag, is sitting on the other side of me. He's on his cell phone, he's like, bleh, 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 to people, he's not very nice. If you're watching, Justin, I love you, man. So basically, I'm like, man, this guy kind of sucks, and now I'm stuck here, and like, I don't know anyone else. I was totally by myself at the event. I kind of took a leap of faith and went. So he gets off the phone, and I mean, he's like the only person I can speak to because I'm stuck. And so I'm dying to talk to him. I'm like, so tell me about your business. And he's like, yeah, 750,000 GCI. And I'm like, holy shit. He's not even nice on the phone, and he's doing 750,000 GCI. Like, that's nuts. So all of a sudden, I got to know him, by the way, and we became really good friends, and he wasn't a douchebag, but he was mad about a short sale or something. So he was like letting somebody have it on the phone. So anyway, all of a sudden I met someone, and I listened to what he was doing in his business, and my vision was like, if he can build a team like he has, and he had branded cars, and he showed me his website. He was from Milwaukee, right? I'm like, well, if he can do that, I can do that. So then I really always focus on, okay, who's the most successful in the room, and how do I surround myself by them? So I remember I somehow got on like the VIP party bus, and I was afraid to drink because I didn't know anyone. And so I was fake drinking that night. I was like dancing on the bars with everybody because that's what everybody else was doing, fake drinking, just so I could connect with the right people in that room that were on that party bus to make sure, and those became some of my very best friends in the program. Within a year, I was the person who was on stage talking about my experience because I grew so fast. But it was purely because I was just like some of the people in the room that are like, what do I want to do? What's my vision? Like, how do I move forward? And it was Justin. And it was a perfect setup because when he presented to me, he didn't present as this like amazing shining knight. He presented as kind of a dick, and he was super successful. I'm like, well, I'm nice. Like, if he's super successful, I could totally do it. So that was my moment.
That's huge, and it came from an experience, right, with someone else. And mine's kind of similar, but way different. The same principle applies though. So my parents both grew up on welfare, and raised in the hood in San Diego. My mom's one of 13. I mean, as a kid, I saw everything from an uncle getting murdered to drug, all the shit. Like, you just jail, like you see a whole different thing, right? This is young. Now, my dad was in car sales, so I got to go to private Catholic school my whole life. Completely different energy. Like, you guys want to talk about you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with? I got to see it. I have 2 tattoos. This one says vision, this one says perspective, and it's pertaining to this. So I saw this, but then I went to a private Catholic all-boys high school called St. Augustine, and then I went to the University of San Diego for college. When I was at the University of San Diego, I met some of the wealthiest people in the world. One of my good friends, their family owns LA Fitness, like all of them, and just all this wild shit. Like, I just never seen anything like it before. And I'm getting exposed to like this level of success. And to me, I grew up and my family was all this. And so I've seen these 2 different worlds, both human beings. Like, what was the difference? And that was kind of my obsession, is understanding that. And a lot of it was environments. These people are having completely different conversations than these people. These people have completely different reasons. Like, the average of the 5 people that this person was working with is like, worst thing worse was somebody had like a 9-to-5 job that wasn't making 6 figures. And this one was like, I just am not in jail, so I'm doing good. And there's lessons to be learned from both sides. But the moment that like turned me on, where I decided, is I sat in this finance class, and teacher comes up, it's first day of class, it was like my junior year, and she says, hey, who here is invested into the stock market? Like, I think 90% of the class raised their hands. I got up and I left. I was so intimidated. That's not even a conversation. No one even knows what it is. Like, on the other side of that spectrum, it was crazy. In that moment, I just got obsessed with like, fuck this, I'm gonna have a different outcome. Like, and to me, it was like, that's when it became a mission of purpose. Like, I was always good at sales and personable and charismatic, but that's when I was like, I need to do this for a lot of people. This is bigger than me. And if my parents put me in a situation with the resources that they got, what can I do? So for me, it's a lot about social responsibility and showing people of all different colors, but someone who comes from a bad circumstance, that you don't have to be an athlete or musician to make a giant impact and be able to create a different type of life. So that was the moment for me, is like, this education thing is important, and sharing that. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome question.
Have either one of you experienced, I've read some articles online where entrepreneurs talk about going through periods of depression or anxiety. I know that you're married. I'm not sure of your status.
Are you asking me if I'm single?
You know, when you're first starting out, you know, you're maybe by yourself, you know, not, you know, in your business and maybe at home as well. And did depression or anxiety sometimes play on that? And how did you kind of overcome that or come out of that?
I didn't. I told people yesterday at my house this. I don't even like to pee alone. I don't like to be alone. I like to hang out with a lot of people. So the only time that I ever remember being like, this sucks, I sold a condo building at the Dunloring Metro, and my assistant would be in the office and I would be in this condo that I owned by myself. And I'm like, wow, I had the realization, Kara remembers this, like, I'm just not meant to live alone. This sucks and I'm not going to do it. And I was trying to be financially responsible. And so I bought a condo that wasn't where I wanted to live because it was cheaper. I learned a very valuable lesson from that. So I bought a 5-bedroom house. I filled it with roommates. Sometimes I had 6 people living there, and I worked my ass off and I partied my ass off, and I was never sad.
I definitely went through some shit. So when, like, me and my girl, when we broke up, I always envisioned like a household when my daughter was always going to have both parents in the house, you know. So this is at the top of the year. So I thought that was like the thing that made me happy. And so when we broke up, that was some shit. And then having to run the company, it was this really weird place of, I had, like, outside looking in, like, you know, fucking cars, a Ferrari, a Bentley, a Tesla, penthouse, all the bullshit. And like, that's happiness, right? No, right? And so I went to this place where we broke up. I'm sitting in the house by myself, like our office, we're building this new office and shit. I'm just like, yo, I feel depressed right now. So I called one of my boys. I was like, I'm gonna tell you some shit, but like, this is weird for me to talk about. So I feel depressed. He's like, what are you talking about? Your life is this, this, and this, and this, and this. And that's why I hooked up with that mentor I talked about earlier, Jim Bunch. And I learned something really quick in that moment, and it's just, there's a difference between success and fulfillment. I was successful, I wasn't fulfilled. And so we did this really cool exercise about kind of understanding like your core values and the 5 things that trigger you and make you happy. And it's basically a framework for kind of happiness. This is essentially what we worked out. And mine were something along the lines of making sure my life has social responsibility, fun experiences, helping others, security for the people that I love. But it was like clarity on these things. And long story short, I was able to realign with some of those things. And I realized that every time in my life where I was feeling unhappy, it's because something was out of sync with my 5 core values. Mm-hmm. And so having the clarity on what happiness was for me, and then making sure I'm doing things to protect that was everything. And then also too, realizing that like I didn't live to build a business, I built a business so I could live. I didn't, and still don't at times, have an identity outside of my business. Like, I'm all in on my business. People like ask me, what are your hobbies? I'm like, Xbox and at the house. Like, I don't have, like everyone's like, I'm gonna travel to all these things. Of course I can travel right now. I'm just like, I don't. So that was a huge thing. And so how I got out of it is surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs, and I did Lewis House Mastermind and shit like that, and meeting other people and just getting different perspective, experiences, etc. And that was a big deal. So I guess the biggest thing is don't try and figure it out by yourself when you're in that state. You just confuse yourself even more. Yeah.
Good advice.
I have a question. Being so ambitious and having a family and really having the responsibility of being married, how do you balance that? Because a lot of times your ambition could almost, not even so much supersede, but almost kind of, you know, be to the top of the group, but then your responsibilities could almost kind of like hinder that a little bit.
Are you saying that sometimes ambition can be an obsession that's distracting from the rest of life? Who can relate to that? Yeah, I'm with you. I think that it's a constant recalibration of priorities to make sure that they're aligned and they make sense. And one thing that I noticed when going with core values, like friendships are very important to me, but I find my family, my relationship, my business, like for a while, I had so much going on and I realized that I didn't have the close friends that I used to have, and that was hard for me. So I think I never feel like my business is causing tension in my relationship, but I also have a husband who's in my business. So it's a little bit different. So you might be able to speak to that a little more. Where I did find tension in relationships was with my friends. Because when I was in building mode, I mean, I was like, I'm gonna build this team, I'm gonna hire these people, and I was really focused on it. And so I spent less time with the people who really mattered in my life. And I came to a realization, like, I'm not as connected to them as I want to be, and I had to make some shifts. And so now I just try and be really aware. Every year with my team, I do this exercise that's called the Wheel of Life. Have you guys ever heard of it? Okay, cool. So you rank all the different areas of your life, and it's really good, not only for me, but for all of them as well, to be very clear. We do it next week, every year. We look at the last year, how they ranked all the different categories and what things they had to shift to change how they were feeling. And we break it down into activities, right? So if you find that you're obsessed with your success or your business, creating time that you have to spend on your relationship may be necessary.
Yeah. Well, since my relationship didn't work out, I have a...
You work beautiful for the time that it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. No regrets, and we're cool. There's nothing salty about it. But I will tell you this. I genuinely believe as human beings, we can be great at one thing at a time. LeBron James is great at basketball right now. I think business is my greatness right now. I think we have to tell ourselves the truth. If you're great at business, you are a good parent. Some people will argue and say I can be great at everything. I think you're full of shit. Because sacrifices just need to be made, and you gotta tell yourself about the truth about the sacrifice that you're making. Like my dad, he talked to me one time because he was in sales, so he was always gone. He's like, man, I wish you were there. Or he said to me, he's like, I wish I was there more for when you were like, coming up. And I was like, I don't. I was like, I do. Obviously, I want to spend time with you, but like, I don't. I'm only in this position because of your sacrifice. I'm good, and I don't have a resentment towards you. I don't think like that, oh, you weren't there for me. Like, I'm very happy. And just think about this, like, if everybody in the world, you take 8 billion people, if everyone's sole focus is just protecting themselves and their family truly comes before everyone else, and there's like a clear separation, that means like greed is always going to dominate and and protecting your own. I just think there's some people in life that dedicate their life to that of service, and that's the biggest thing that they can do. I think TVs, movies, and everything really idolizes the idea of the family unit and how that's the greatest accomplishment. It's in every fucking movie you see. That's the greatest accomplishment of all. I think the people who forgo some of those things to serve a bigger cause, I put them on just an equal scale as the others. I think someone has to make that sacrifice. And I just don't think people want to talk about it. Everyone wants to say, like, I want to have everything done. It's bullshit. Like, you can have still good stuff and solid stuff, but I just think there's a decision that needs to be made.
Absolutely.
I'm going to challenge a little bit.
Maybe. I mean, I was expecting that.
I'm going to challenge a little bit. Yeah. I feel like I'm a killer mom. Like, I am a kick-ass mom, right? And I'm a really, really strong leader of my team, right? But what I had to get clear on is what things I needed to delegate in order to continue to grow and be that leader. So as an example, having Danielle come onto our team as the sales manager was necessary to give my team the support they needed and allow me to be an amazing mother and to be a business person. So for myself personally, I don't feel like it's one thing that I'm awesome at and then other things that I can't do.
Yeah, I guess what I mean by that is just time, right? So like, for example, kids only have one currency, time. My daughter's 3, right? She only sees time. There's no money to it. And so I also have an obligation that I choose, that I signed up for to my team of 27. I have an obligation to make sure that they can also provide for their families and their etc. Sometimes there are time issues that conflict. And I have to choose because I have this. I have a commitment to our 5,000 students. I have a commitment to like our people. I have other commitments that are not my daughter, and she needs to understand it too. Doesn't mean that he doesn't love you, etc. So and that's what I mean by like good and great. It's not that I think I'm a really strong dad. I think I care tremendously. We spend super quality time together. I give her all those resources, etc. But if I wasn't as dedicated to my company as well, I could for sure do more as a dad. And I have to own it. I have to tell myself the truth about it. It doesn't make me a bad person because of it, but I do need to tell myself the truth about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a weird like thing, like, you know? It's just,
yeah. Even like just to give you guys perspective, I committed to my mother and sister that we would go to Disney, and I would be in Florida for 2.5 weeks, and I got back 2 days ago. And then because I made that commitment, Dan was like, well, there's no way we can do that and do the Cardone event. And I'm like, yeah, we can. We can definitely do both. He's like, well, how's that going to work? Really well. It's going to be awesome. And he's like, you are a nut. No, it's fine. We'll be okay. So then he didn't get to go to Disney. So we leave on Thursday to go back to Disney. Tonight we have 80 people coming to our team holiday party. And Sunday, all of my clients are coming over for our holiday event. We'll probably have 300 clients at my home. Okay? So sometimes, like for me, that's going to mean I might sleep a little less. Thankfully, I'm pretty good at that. It might be a little more stressful, but I actually am excited about that. And to top it off, Kara is hosting our sorority Christmas, which I usually host on Saturday night, which I have said I cannot promise I'll be there, but I'll be there. Right? I know. I'm like, all right, I'll bring dessert that's store-bought, but I'll be there, right? So I guess my point is, like, I think a lot of people limit themselves by telling themselves they can't.
I agree with
they
that.
can't do all these things, and the reality is, like, I slept great last night. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Like, I had a blast with everyone at my house. Like, I do believe I have the capacity to take on more than I used to and still be really present, calm, like put my kids to bed last night. Like I can juggle more balls and have peace in my life right now. And all of you can if your mindset shifts.
Here's a question. When you were coming up though, was there a time that wasn't the case? The balance that you achieve now, that your foundation is solid.
Oh,
was there a
yeah.
time where it was just like, no, it's all business?
100%.
That's where I'm at now. Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because it's kind of like I find myself, I'm on an upward trajectory. Right?
Yeah.
But I have a wife, I have 2 kids, but it's kind of like I'm working my business, and it's like it's like I'm making the money, but I don't have the resources right now to hire a sales manager to manage my leads. So I'm kind of training my VAs and training my people to ultimately get to that level. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm 12 hours at the office. By the time I get home, my 15-month-old, he's fast asleep. He's drunken off breast milk at that point.
Yeah.
So I really want to find that balance, but at the same time, I understand that success requires a level of dedication. So I'm just trying to kind of find that happy medium.
So one piece of advice with that, I would try and take control of your schedule a little differently. So it doesn't necessarily, traditional times that you work don't necessarily apply, right? And traditional times that you spend time with your family don't necessarily apply. So what I would suggest is figure out what's going to be meaningful to your family, specifically your wife, right? And if that means that you need to take 2 minutes and put on some meditation music before you drive into your driveway, like I actually do this sometimes. I will park, because if they see me, it's too late. I will park on the street near my house when I'm on my way to my house for a minute to center myself before I walk in the door, because if I show up and I'm still focused on all the other shit, I'm not giving my best self to them, and sometimes I'm only going to be available for an hour. So I want to come in and be able, like my son cries if he doesn't open the door when I get home. It's like, and if I'm distracted, I walk in the door and then all of a sudden he's like, he wanted to get you. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? Shit, okay, I forgot. Then I go back out of the door. It actually happened to me yesterday, right? And he's like, he wanted to answer the door, Mommy. I'm like, oh, okay. And I like go back out the door and then come back in. Some people were there for that. But I feel like reevaluating your schedule, Like maybe it's that you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to pour into your wife, and that's 15 minutes when you get home that you sit down with her. Maybe it's the 15 minutes after you put your kids to bed where you figure out like what matters to her, what's her love language, what's going to speak to her heart and show her that you care. It doesn't take hours. It takes moments when you're really intentional about how you spend the time.
Thank you.
I have one question. I was at your VIP yesterday, toured you, your house, it was beautiful, and randomly
Thanks.
I ran into him at Photo Chow.
Oh, no way!
Yes, right.
Awesome.
But one thing I really noticed about your business model is you leverage out a lot of aspects of your business.
Yeah, I do.
Like at one point, I think it was Tyler or Dustin who was talking about like, you know, our team is really efficient right now, but we want to hire somebody to make it even more efficient. So there's like a position open, all those things. Whenever you do that, you leverage out a certain aspect of your business. Typically, when do you see that return come back to you? And do you mainly do that to leverage your time, to have more freedom? And does it necessarily generate more income for you when you do this?
Okay, that's a great question. And I think that it depends. So sometimes it's more of a time issue, and sometimes it's more of a money issue, but it is always both. Okay, even my nanny is a financial investment in my company. So that's the way I look at it. My cleaning crew, like every element that I outsource is an investment in my business, because then the hours that I have are invested in the right things. In terms of when you see the return on the investment, I would say the average is probably 3 to 4 months, but it doesn't have to be that. I mean, it depends on the activities that you set someone up to do. They could do activities that start generating you more income in the first 30 days if that was a necessity in order for you to make the hiring decision. Then you would just have to decide, what are those activities that are going to make me money right away? Yeah. And how do I hire the right personality for that? I believe, and Tyler knows this, if we hire a producer, sometimes right now I'm viewing our content, which can you guys imagine how many hours of content today will create for us? Hours. Yeah. We have 3 videographers, we have 2 that we outsource, we have 5 videographers here and 2 still cameras. That's a lot of content. And we're still producing it now, right? So I could spend 40 hours plus of my life reviewing that content, or I could hire somebody that has the time. So a big mistake I think business owners make is they underestimate, including myself, right? I really suck at this. Tyler will tell you that. They underestimate the amount of time that doing something well takes, and then they wonder why they're getting shitty results. Well, you know, running 5 social media accounts isn't something that someone can do in an hour a day. It's not possible to do it well. So I know all of a sudden I'm going to get time back. I know that Tyler and his skill set is not best used reviewing videos, and my video team can't keep moving if they're not able to produce the content and know what we want and have alignment. And so I know that that position is like, I don't know another real estate agent that has a producer in-house. I've never heard of it. But basically we were evaluating where are the gaps in our organization and what do we need to do to move faster and be more effective and stop having me watching 3 hours of video at night. And that's what's necessary, so that's what I'll do.
I think you know that. I agree, I approve of this message.
Yes! Billie Jean approved.
I just wanted to make a comment that I see from what you've all said, and especially what you've said, is that you make sure you come from a full cup in every aspect of your life, and that's what I begin to apply in my life too, is that you have to follow your bliss, and you have to come from a full cup before you're able to give to your business and be successful at it.
That's a really good point, and I think knowing the hacks that fill your cup quickly are really important, because sometimes you don't have a lot of time to fill your cup. So for me, sitting and like listening to Zen music, which sometimes accidentally comes on when other people get in the car, they're like, what the hell is happening? It's like a dong. I'm like, ha. So for me, that's really quick. Sometimes it's getting a massage. Like I love getting a massage. So that app, right now I'm forgetting, Soothe. I can get a soothe. My husband's like, that's not even relaxing. Like having someone come to the house, I'm like, maybe not for you. I'll set it up right in the freaking toy room. Let's do this shit, right? I'm good. Like I figured out how to hack my system to get that cup full fast.
And sometimes it's a boys' night out. Don't sleep on those. It's important. Or ladies' night out, whatever it is. Like those are crucial. You want to talk about fill up? All you need is like one a month. And when I say a month, I mean a quarter. One a quarter. Like,
you must have some crazy boys' nights out.
Yeah, once a year, we're good. Yeah. So.
Okay, one more question.
Okay, this is a little deeper, I guess, but I was thinking about your question, and it seems to me that if you and your wife paint a vision together, it's going to be easier for her to sacrifice that time with you, I would guess. And my question is, how do you handle that situation where the core relationships in your life don't believe in the vision or don't even, they're okay with like, paycheck every 2 weeks, out of money every other Wednesday, that small thinking kind of thing. How do you?
Do you want to take that one?
I'll start. My daughter taught me this. You guys ever seen the movie Frozen? Let it go, let it go. Like, hey, I be letting shit go. I mean, it's real. It's just like most of my friends are friends that I've been with since I was 4. My COO of my company right now is my best friend since I was 4 years old. Paul and I, in the back, we've known each other for years before working together. So a lot of my close friends I brought into my company. They currently work there. They also are intelligent and they have skill sets and like that I don't have, etc. So there. But then there's other friends who I don't fuck with anymore. And it's one of those things where it's like, they're like, dude, you've changed. Yeah, sure have. You want to change?
Thank God.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, I think it's everything. And it's hard to do until you realize the benefits. Then it's the easiest decision you've ever made.
Yeah.
So I was frozen them.
So I think a lot of creating alignment is figuring out what's really truly important to the person, because if they're resisting a vision that's inspiring and exciting, there's a reason and there's an underlying fear. And a lot of times they don't really understand their fear, and so they're resisting in a way that seems hard to understand and almost combative, if you can relate to that. And really it's about getting down to that inner child inside them and finding out where they're wounded. And you cannot fix them, but you can bring light to what they really want in life and their core values. And most people don't have the skills or the emotional understanding of what's preventing them from seeing past where they are today, right? So the biggest thing that I believe you can do when you have a partner, a parent, a loved one that's not where you are is love on them, but you have to keep your cup full and try and help them gain some understanding emotionally of where they are. And sometimes it's a reflection, not a fix. So when you're noticing, if you try and fix your partner, they get pretty pissed, right? Yeah. But if you reflect like, hey, I see you struggling with this and that makes me feel sad, they're like, oh, you're sad? Right? It's a different reaction. And so in order to really break through barriers in a relationship, I think you have to become very, very skilled. You have to become excellent at asking the right questions and reflecting what you see in their answers, and then being okay with silence and discomfort. And that causes breakthroughs.
And even just realizing some people will have the breakthrough and some people just aren't ready for it for whatever's going on in their life. What do they say? You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I mean, I have a friend, like you just triggered a story. Like I was going to go to this Tony Robbins event, and I honestly don't remember the cost, but her comment was, I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars to have somebody just have me jump up and cheer and go hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. And it was a moment of like, oh, do I get into like all this and da-da-da, and I was just like, okay, well, maybe next time you'll come around. I just kind of stepped back from it. But it was just like, some people are so stubborn and stuck in their ways, they're going to be. So instead, what I decided to do is I gave her my ticket. Guess what she did? She didn't go.
I knew it. I knew it.
So watch this. You can bring a horse to water, but and I thought I was all like, this is it. She's gonna change. She didn't go. So, right?
Because it wasn't really about that.
Yeah, it wasn't, for sure.
It was about something else inside of her that didn't believe,
100%.
right?
That's why I didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
But it was like,
but it
well,
still sucked. I'll go to Tony with you. Let's go together.
Gosh, yes.
It's freaking awesome. Who's been to Tony, by the way? I did Platinum Partners for a year with him, and I highly recommend going to an event. Go to a UPW. They are not expensive. They're just the gateway drugs, so look out.
Did you have dinner with him or something like that?
So I went to his birthday party at his house in Sun Valley, and it was awesome.
No, went to
Nah, I just went to his house. Dan actually did, he like dug out the hot springs and got it in his house. And so they did running from the hot springs to the ice cold, crazy, freezing river, like back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, I'm gonna sit this one out. I'll be drinking inside. Like,
such a Tony Robbins birthday.
Yeah.
What'd you do? A jump from cold to hot water 7 times.
Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you so much. If you are interested, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.